a sovereign nation is in direct violation of the United States Code, Title 18, Part 1, Chapter 118, Section 2441, governing the offense of war crimes. 6. In the course of invading and occupying Iraq, the President, as Commander-in-Chief, has taken responsibility for the targeting of civilians, journalists, hospitals, and ambulances, use of anti-personnel weapons, including cluster bombs, in densely settled urban areas, the use of white phosphorus as a weapon, depleted uranium weapons, and the use of a new version of napalm found in Mark 77 firebombs. Under the direction of President George Bush, the United States has engaged in collective punishment of Iraqi civilian populations, including, but not limited to, blocking roads, cutting electricity, cutting water, destroying fuel stations, planting bombs in farm fields, demolishing houses, plowing over orchards. A, under the principle of command responsibility, that is, a de jure command can be civilian as well as military and can apply to the policy commands of heads of state. Said command brings President George Bush within the reach of international criminal law under the Additional Protocol 1 of June 8, 1977 to the Geneva Conventions of August 12, 1949, and relating to the protection of victims of international armed conflicts, Article 86, 2. The United States is a signatory to Additional Protocol 1 on December 12, 1977. B. Furthermore, Article 85, Paragraph 3 of said Protocol 1 defines as a grave breach making a civilian population or individual civilians the object of attacks. This offense, together with the principle of command responsibility, places President George Bush's conduct under the reach of the same law and principles described as the basis for war crimes prosecution at Nuremberg under Article 6 of the Charter of the Nuremberg Tribunals, including crimes against peace, violations of the laws and customs of war, and crimes against humanity, similarly codified in the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court, Articles 5 through 8. C. The Lancet report has established massive civilian casualties in Iraq as a result of the United States invasion and occupation of that country. D. International laws governing wars of aggression are completely prohibited under the legal principle of jus cogens, whether or not a nation has signed or ratified a particular international agreement. In all these actions and decisions, President George W. Bush has acted in a manner contrary to his trust as President and Commander-in-Chief, and subversive of constitutional government, to the prejudice of the cause of law and justice, and to the manifest injury of the people of the United States. Wherefore, George W. Bush, by such conduct, is guilty of an impeachable offense warranting removal from office. Article 9. Failing to provide troops with body armor and vehicle armor. In his conduct while President of the United States, George W. Bush, in violation of his constitutional oath to faithfully execute the office of President of the United States, and to the best of his ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, and in violation of his constitutional duty under Article 2, Section 3 of the Constitution, to take care that the laws be faithfully executed, has both personally and acting through his agents and subordinates, together with the Vice President, been responsible for the deaths of members of the U.S. military and serious injury and trauma to our soldiers by failing to provide available body armor and vehicle armor. While engaging in an invasion and occupation of choice, not fought in self-defense and not launched in accordance with any timetable other than the President's choosing, President Bush sent U.S. troops into danger without providing them with armor. This shortcoming had been known for years, during which time the President has chosen to allow soldiers and Marines to continue to face unnecessary risks to life and limb rather than providing them with armor. In all these actions and decisions, President George W. Bush has acted in a manner contrary to his trust as President and Commander-in-Chief, and subversive of constitutional government, to the prejudice of the cause of law and justice, and to the manifest injury of the people of the United States. Wherefore, George W. Bush, by such conduct, is guilty of an impeachable offense warranting removal from office. Article 10. Falsifying accounts of U.S. troop deaths and injuries for political purposes. In his conduct while President of the United States, George W. Bush, in violation of his constitutional oath to faithfully execute the office of the President of the United States and to the best of his ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, and in violation of his constitutional duty under Article 2, Section 3 of the Constitution to take care that the laws be faithfully executed, has both personally and together with the Vice President promoted false propaganda stories about members of the United States military, including individuals both dead and injured. The White House and the Department of Defense in 2004 promoted a false account of the death of Specialist Pat Tillman, reporting that he had died in a hostile exchange, delaying release of information that he had died from friendly fire, shot in the forehead 3 times in a manner that led investigating doctors to believe that he had been shot at close range. A 2005 report by Brigadier General Gary M. Jones reported that in the days immediately following Specialist Tillman's death, U.S. Army investigators were aware that Specialist Tillman was killed by friendly fire, shot in the head, and that senior Army commanders, including General John Abizaid, knew of this fact within days of the shooting, but nevertheless approved the awarding of a Silver Star, Purple Heart, and a posthumous promotion. On September 24, 2007, Specialist Brian O'Neill, the last soldier to see Specialist Pat Tillman alive, testified before the House Government Oversight and Government Reform Committee that he was warned by superiors not, not to divulge information that a fellow soldier killed Specialist Tillman, especially to the Tillman family. The White House refused to provide requested documents to the committee, citing, quote, executive branch confidentiality interests, unquote. The White House and the Department of Defense in 2003 promoted a false account of the injury of Jessica Dawn Lynch, reporting that she had been captured in a hostile exchange and had been dramatically rescued. On April 2, 2003, the Department of Defense released a video of the rescue and claimed that Lynch had stab and bullet wounds and that she had been slapped about on her hospital bed and interrogated. Iraqi doctors and nurses later interviewed, including Dr. Harith al-Husana, a doctor in the Nasira Hospital, described Lynch's injuries as, quote, a broken arm, a broken thigh, and a dislocated ankle, unquote. According to Dr. al-Husana, there was no sign of gunshot or stab wounds, and Lynch's injuries were consistent with those that would be suffered in a car accident.